Alright, 5 things I watched, so let's focus on those. Maybe mention a 6th thing, I guess. Okay, first of all, I watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and that was actually, so it was a very entertaining watch. Um, it threw some interesting things I don't think I've seen before. So it had my attention. It ended up not being as cheesy as I was afraid it was going to be. Instead, I felt like it was just right, and even going into it expecting what I wanted, it was a really good build up to that. The most interesting thing is that the way this DVD release worked, there's basically 2 OVAs, one that was made in 1993 and one that was made in 2000, I believe. The one that was made in 2000, though, is 7 episodes that take place before the 6 that were made in 1993. And these DVDs, they basically play those episodes not in the order they were released, but in chronological order. So it's really interesting to watch this anime pretty much smoothly transition from the newer JoJo's Bizarre Adventure OVA to the older JoJo's Bizarre Adventure OVA without, I guess, losing quality, I'm going to say. It just transitioned correctly, I felt. So it was really interesting watching it that way, and I think it's probably a pretty good way to do it. It leads to the more proper build-up that the original 6-episode OVA was trying to go for, without really spoiling it too much. So you can kind of expect that halfway through the series, crescendo, and then go back to the OVA. But it all builds up to the same thing at the very end, which I thought was really good. Let's see. This weekend, I finally watched the rest of Naruto Shippuden Set 7. In particular, I watched Disc 3. And it was, a lot of it is what I expected, but it was really enjoyable, actually. I think it ended at a potentially satisfying place, where it kind of concluded something, but, it could throw something else on at the end that I'm not expecting, perhaps. So overall, Naruto Shippuden Set 7 is an excellent thing that I felt Naruto's Shippuden has been building up to, I guess. It feels relevant, in place, and pretty neat. Sorry. Let's see. Then after that, I guess I'll talk about that other potential 6th thing. I also rewatched the last 13 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and I really enjoyed it again. Although I did notice at the same time that the ending of the series was, I'm not saying bad, but it was definitely not, quick. It was definitely something trying to tie up loose ends. So it took it something like 2 or 3 episodes to properly end the series, I think. Which wasn't, like I said, wasn't bad, but it was interesting noticing that the second time around and not the first time. Overall, though, it was very satisfying. The friend I watched it with, we've never pushed our anime watching that late at night before because it was so engrossing. So that's another plus mark to add to the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood ending. Let's see, on Sunday, I started watching Gokudo again. The story of that one is, the friend who was over who kind of wanted to watch Slayer Season 2, but there was some back and forth there on what we were going to do and whether or not we wanted to, and whether that was intruding on my plans or not. But basically, we're like, she just wanted to watch something 90s. Same time frame as Slayers, and then Gokudo came up. Now, I wouldn't actually say Gokudo compares to Slayers other than some similarities, but the basic idea is that I consider Slayers to be superior, and to be honest, I'm only 3 episodes into Gokudo rewatching it. I watched 13 episodes before and can only vaguely remember bits and pieces from it, so starting over is a reasonable thing to do, and I guess that's, now that I've restarted that, I need to go through all of it and watch all of it for my own sake. Not a bad first 3 episodes, but you know, watching that instead of Slayers just made me think of how much I missed Lena Inverse. And then finally, the last 2 things I watched. First, I rewatched Afro Samurai, and I thought the first time I had watched it, I had watched a movie version of the 5 episodes and been feeling like it was a bit directionless, I guess. But looking back at the DVD, it clearly has episodes on it, so I'm guessing what happened then was the person I watched it with, as soon as the episode ends, we gotta skip. So maybe in my mind, the continuous flow of the first time I watched it came from that. Whereas the second time, I didn't want to try and skip things on the Blu-ray, even though it would probably work. And so that actually gave me time to evaluate each episode on an episode-by-episode basis. And I actually thought it was a lot better than I had remembered. So I guess I think I've heard that there's a movie version of the first Afro Samurai. And if you experience that, or if you are wondering whether or not you want to go that route, my thoughts are you probably don't. It's a bit like Karis and both the Karis movies in that, you know, they would have made a movie out of a bunch of episodes. But the pacing, the stories, the point, the focus is just not right in each one, if you catch my drift. So, and if you watch Afro Samurai, I think it's better to watch that one on an episode-per-episode basis. In other words, you probably shouldn't be watching it thinking, how's he getting to the very end of the series from this episode? You should be watching this episode for this episode. Maybe a lot of people already do that naturally, and that's just something strange that I don't naturally do because I've watched hundreds and hundreds of stuff. I don't know. So, watching Afro Samurai the second time, I thought it was better than I remembered. The reason I rewatched that was because I was also going to watch Afro Samurai Resurrection for the first time. I'd actually say that that Resurrection isn't as good as the first one, mostly because it kind of set itself up to almost be a different version of the first one in sequel form, which almost made it like a repeat, except that it didn't feel like our character had the same motivation as before. Yeah. So, the movie is Afro Samurai Resurrection, which is the movie that's the sequel to the first Afro Samurai. Overall, I thought it was okay. It's probably something you would enjoy if you enjoyed what happened in Afro Samurai. But I could understand it feeling slightly weaker, I guess. Anyways, that's everything I watched. I know this coming week I've got a lot of new stuff I'm interested in watching. At the same time, I restarted Gokudo, and I'm really wanting to rewatch Slayer Season 2 now, so I guess I don't have much of a choice there anymore, do I? I have to decide on important things. Oh well, I guess we'll find out what I do, so see you next week.